Hi, it's Danny here, the girl in the movie. You're watching the QC, the best in entertainment, movies and more. This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
This morning I got up at 8 and I binge watched 4 episodes and it was like, wow.
Wow. Now I feel terrible.
No, it's all right, don't worry.
So welcome back to the QC. I'm your host, Wonka Burnett. That's Jordan. That's Jared.
I'm Jordan, fellow nerd out here.
And I'm Jared, the other super friend.
Very nice. And we have a very special guest with us today, Danielle, the girl in the movie. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, our pleasure. All the way from the UK. So we're gonna just jump right in. Having a conversation today about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and our overall impressions of that show. And here we go. So, can you tell me what is your overall review and impression of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
So for me, Winter Soldier, Captain America 2 is still by far my favorite Marvel movie that I've ever released. So I was hoping that we'd get a slice of that in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I think that they did it justice as much as I could have asked, could have hoped. Because they had espionage, they had thriller, they had drama, great character moments. All in all, I'm a huge fan of the show, and it's crazy that after 4 phases, on the 4th phase, that Marvel is still refining their product and still refining their storytelling, and that even after all this time, they're still finding new ways to entertain. So I'm all here for it. I liked it a lot. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, I mean, they keep the hits coming, and as I've said before on the show, in Marvel we trust. I have no reason to deviate from that now. It was a little short. I definitely would have taken more content, but I liked, the character development they gave to Falcon, what they did with Bucky, really diving down and adding depth to these characters that, in movies like Endgame and Infinity War just don't really get a lot of screen time. So I completely agree. Like it's completely actually it exceeded my expectations once again, just like WandaVision did.
Yeah.
Episode 3 I think was fantastic. So, Marvel, Feige, just keep doing your thing. Like if he ever messes up, we'll say something, but he hasn't yet. So
Yep.
Facts.
And this is my turn. I've just binge watched this over the past few days and I just fell in love. I didn't know what to expect, but I thought it was brilliant. Visually, it was great. It was full of action. And I liked how they brought in some of the original characters from the original movie. Like you had George St. Pierre, you had Sharon. I thought that was really great. And it also, for me, it gave a little bit more of a backstory about what happened in the blip. So I thought they really opened up that kind of story really well. I thought the characters were brilliant. I love Sam, I love Bucky, and I like the depth that they brought into the series. And I also really, because I just told you today, Swanka, that I watched the last episode and it just moved me to tears. I was crying when they brought Isaiah's story towards the end of it. So I was literally a lump in my throat and was bawling my eyes out. I thought that was just perfect. It was so really well and beautifully shot.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah, no, I mean, my thing about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier overall review, I think the show is excellent. I don't think it's any surprise to anybody who's keeping up with the channel, but I thought the action beats were great. I thought the Falcon story arc was excellent and very, very inspiring to me personally. Love the Isaiah Bradley character. Love what they did with that and their approach to bringing him into the TV MCU. I thought John Walker, Captain America, U.S. Agent, was a great anti-hero, a great villain, and I'm really excited to see what they do with him moving forward. In either if the show gets a second season, or if he shows up in the movies, which I'm sure he will. And I think just overall, it's pretty rare for me for a show for me to be excited for a show every week for the next episode.
Yeah.
And that's just, there's shows that like I'll watch and like, the next episode will come around and I'm happy to watch it. But I was like, every week I was like so excited to see what they would do next. But that being said, I was a little disappointed I thought they were going to debut some new MCU characters or bring something in. And I think part of me knew that wasn't going to happen because as we talked about in previous, conversations about WandaVision, we know now that they're not really going to stray too far with the TV shows because they don't want to alienate people who watch the movies but maybe don't watch the shows. So I kind of knew they weren't going to do that, but I had heard grumblings on the internet that they're going to introduce Omega Red, which is one of my favorite characters in the Marvel comics in general, and I was really excited for that. And that obviously didn't happen, so that was a little disappointing, but not completely surprising. But overall, I think just an amazing show, and I hope we get the second season. I
really want to,
that, but
yeah.
So if you guys had to recommend only one, which would you choose? The Falcon and the Winter Soldier or WandaVision?
So for me, that's an easy pick. Even though they're such different shows and they're both great and they have such great qualities in their own respective rights, I would say WandaVision personally, just because I've never seen anything like WandaVision. We've seen stuff like Falcon and the Winter Soldier per se, because we've seen, Captain America and the Winter Soldier. We've seen other things that tackle similar subject matters of spies or terrorist organizations. We've seen that kind of vibe in the action thriller. You haven't really seen anything like WandaVision. And I think that WandaVision offered something really, really unique, and the execution was great. The character moments were great, and just the theme of dealing with grief and the way that they handled it, I thought they did a great job. So I think WandaVision is one of a kind. So that's me.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. As much as I enjoyed both shows thoroughly, I think the intrigue and the suspense in WandaVision kept me going. And like both of these shows, I was excited to every Friday. I was like, all right, new episode. I agree. And like, that's something that most shows don't really do anymore. But with WandaVision, I think that, granted, I will say both shows, the finales didn't pay off quite the way I thought they would, to be honest. And I think that's where, don't trust the internet, Omega Red or Mephisto, whoever it may be. But I think WandaVision still overall told such a much more unique story, like Jordan was saying. That to me, I think makes it stand out so much more than Falcon and Winter Soldier, because Falcon and Winter Soldier still had a lot of typical beats. So if I had to, because you're forcing me to pick one, WandaVision, I would never force that choice on anyone else.
Sure, that makes sense.
Watch them both. Watch it all.
Exactly.
And then watch Loki when it comes out.
Well, I haven't watched WandaVision. That's one on my next list to watch. I can see you shaking your head, Jared. I'm so sorry, but no,
it's okay.
I'm gonna watch it though. And from what you guys have just said, it seems really interesting as well. Touches on, like as you mentioned, bereavement and things that I don't really know about WandaVision. She's not one of my favorite Marvel characters, and I was really intrigued when they brought the series out, but I've just not had time to watch it. So at the moment, I'm sat on the fence because I've only watched the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Gotcha.
That makes sense. So, it's hard to say, as I love both shows, and, anybody who'd ask me, I would recommend, obviously, either one, just like I think Jared and Jordan would. But I personally thought episode 5 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, for me, was better than any episode of WandaVision. I just happen to like that episode a lot. And I love Isaiah Bradley, if that's not super obvious at this point. I did a video diary just talking about his arc and how much I think that story was important to tell and to bring into the TV show. And I was talking with some other creators not too long ago on Instagram, movie entertainment creators like what I'm doing, and shout out to Movie Fest, Unyolo, and Movie Files. And in that conversation, Movie Fest made the point that The Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision are both shows that actually have some educational value. Like if you're a young person, WandaVision talks about grief and how specifically to deal with grief and how maybe not to deal with grief, and does it in a way that is very entertaining. And there's I don't know. I guess there's, in my mind, I don't know a lot of shows that are pop culture entertainment shows that you can say that about them, right? So I think that's really cool about WandaVision. And then when it comes to The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I think it's, the show with the Isaiah Bradley character really acknowledges, marginalized and exploited groups and the history of that, not in the US, but in the world, and shine some light on that and makes us think about that and how, we should try to be better, about not doing those kind of things. So again, I think that's really cool. And, for that reason, both shows I think are something that people should be watching. But either one. But if I had to choose one to arrive at my point, it would really be Falcon and the Winter Soldier, just because I just have more of a personal attachment, I guess you would say, to that show. But but really, I really love both. So
Gotcha.
So speaking of Isaiah, oh sorry, go ahead.
No, I think fair point. That was all. Fair point.
Yeah. So speaking of Isaiah Bradley, what did you guys think of the show's decision to really lean into his arc and kind of have that in some ways become, the kind of the third arc, with with Falcon, of course, Bucky, and then his character as well.
I thought it was fantastic, and it was essential because it brought into question Sam's identity and how the mantle of Captain America, what it was to him, and for him to learn that there was a black super soldier that had undergone the serum, but he essentially views the shield and the symbol of Captain America so differently than Sam did, that he had to wrestle with that within himself, and he had to come to terms with what does being Captain America mean to me. And that's why I think we were saying his character arc is so fantastic, because at the beginning of the show, he doesn't want to be Captain America. He doesn't feel that he's worthy. And by the end, he's made such a resolution for him to come so far and to also influence Isaiah. And Isaiah's perspective also influenced Sam's perspective on how he viewed Captain America and the Shield. So I thought excellent inclusion, and the show wouldn't have been the same without him.
Yeah, for sure. And this is where, I think that Marvel definitely went a little bit political here, and they're shining light on things like Isaiah Bradley being kind of like the Marvel version of Tuskegee, is what we were saying, for instance, and things that have been done to, in our case, Black people, that kind of view them to look at their nation differently. This is where being Black and nationalism, how it feels to be an American, you don't look at things quite the same way. For instance, this is where the Flag Smashers, I think, in my opinion, the execution wasn't perfect, but you wanted a villain in a sense that didn't believe in borders, where you have Captain America, who's all about America's in his name, right? You have US Agent, who wants to be that new symbol, but doesn't know how to actually act on it. He's anxious to get in there, but isn't executing properly. And you had Sam, who is doing the right things, but doesn't feel that he's worthy of the mantle. So I really thought that idea and working as foils of each other was really cool. And with Isaiah Bradley, I think that's such a smart decision, just to educate people on and showing different perspective of what it means, a Black Captain America. It's a very different look, and there's ramifications to it, and the show obviously makes that they're not subtle about it. So I'm glad they really leaned in, and they were like, no, this is, yes, like Sam says, I'm a Black man, I got the shield on my chest. Some people are gonna be pissed, some people are gonna accept it, whatever, I'm gonna be me, and this is where he's making it up to Isaiah Bradley as best he can. He said, I know they disrespected you, but I'm not gonna let it happen again. So that's my take. So obviously phenomenal character, the show would have been very different without him.
I really loved the way that the movie touched upon this, because you don't see it enough. And as a white woman in the United Kingdom, I wasn't aware of how Black people and how other minority groups were treated. And I think the way that they executed this, and they highlighted it in the fact that there was a Black Captain America, was really important. And I was really moved to this, to the point that, as I mentioned, I got really upset. I also think in the movie as well, in the series, sorry, I can't remember what episode it was, there was a notion where Sam and Bucky were having an argument in the street, and the police came up, and they automatically went to Bucky is this guy, hassling you. So I think the way that the Isaiah story came about and touches on racism really important, and I really appreciated that. I'm watching it in the film, and I think that I personally think that they did it really well.
Yeah, for sure.
Agreed. Yeah, I think whenever you introduce political elements to a pop culture television show, politics is polarizing by its very nature, right? So people are either going to be on one side usually, sometimes people are in the middle, but generally you have a large group of people who are on one side or the other. So that being said, the Isaiah Bradley character, what he represents, at least as I understand it, is steeped in fact and in groups that have been again, marginalized and exploited for the benefit of people who have power, and that something that continues to happen. And if you get offended by a show kind of shining light on things that are actually happening or that have happened or continue to happen, I feel like that just introduces a whole nother set of questions that I want to pose to you about why you're upset about that, us talking about things that are really happening. So
Yeah.
So my position is, again, I love Isaiah Bradley. You know, just as a black man, like seeing, you know, the black experience, however you want to kind of interpret that, represented, you know, to this character. You know, it's good. Representation matters, and I think it's good when you have characters of different, you know, ethnic backgrounds, orientations, all that kind of stuff, and especially when you do it in a way that feels organic. Like, I don't feel like Isaiah Bradley feels tacked on. I don't feel like he's defined by being black. I think he's a black person that was specifically targeted for something, and you know, that's the story. Just like, you know, Torres's character, you know, in the comics becomes the new Falcon. You know, Torres is obviously, you know, obviously he's an Hispanic person, Latinx person, if you will. So, you know, that's cool that you have the Falcon is, you know, someone who of Latin descent. So so I love Isaiah Bradley. So I mean, I think it's great that they were able to incorporate him in the show in a way that feels natural, and that, you know.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sorry, I was just about to say I agree with that, because he even mentions in the series how they erased him from history, and it was really important, you know, that Sam then told his story, and he was like, it's at a museum or something, and it shows that, you know, his history is important and it should be recognised. And I think a lot of black history has been erased over the years and hushed or brushed under the carpet. So it was really nice that they highlighted that, and they referenced in particular his story was being erased, and then he's now being remembered. So I really loved it. Yeah,
I think that, so you're talking about inclusion, Swanka, and just having, you know, representation matters. Like, even just me growing up in the early 2000s, we had Blade. That was like our only black superhero, and Blade's like, you know, it's Blade. It's kind of its own thing. Right. It's so fantastic for a next generation of kids to grow up and have the Black Panthers and have Captain America, who's black, and to talk about these issues, you know, to bring in these conversations in a way that feels natural and it feels organic, and they'll see themselves up on the screen, and they can relate to it, and they can apply that to their lives. That's why I think storytelling is fantastic, because it's just a little slice of your actual life told in a different way, and you can learn so much from it. So that's why I think I'm so here for it. That's why Marvel is just killing the game right now.
Right on. So, you know, we've talked a lot in this conversation about the Falcon, obviously. We've talked about Isaiah Bradley. We haven't mentioned Bucky at all, which I think is kind of like illustrative of the show, how he kind of takes a back seat. So were you satisfied with Bucky's arc? What do you guys think? Like, what do you think's next for him? And were you satisfied with his arc on the show? So
what I will say is that when it comes to standout performance in the show, Bucky takes the cake for that scene in Wakanda when I forget her name, the Dormilaje. I'm drawing a blank on her name right now.
I know what you're talking about. I'll put her on screen.
When she's trying to get him to test him to see if he's gonna snap to the words, and he's trying like with all of his might, and he's like crying, his face is like, he's got veins popping, he's like, you could see like all the emotion. That scene was like, that did it for me. So Sebastian Stan, favorite performance in the show.
Episode 5, by the way. I think that's episode 5.
I think you're right. It's a good episode. It's a really good episode. Yeah, but what I didn't like though is how I felt that they brushed past the resolution with him talking to the Asian man at the end of the episode. It felt kind of rushed. It felt like it was like we all knew it was going to happen. And I feel like it needed more time to breathe, I guess, because it was a huge step for Bucky to do that, and it felt like they kind of just went by it, like we need to keep moving forward. But in terms of Bucky's arc in the entirety of the show, I really liked it, because at the beginning of the show, he's kind of like a sad mess. He's really like he's depressed and he's really sad. And it was sad to see. But at the end of the show, he's kind of found his stride. He and Sam they're getting along much better, and like you could just tell that he has had a transformation over the course of the show, which I also love to see. So I think as a whole, I loved what they did with Bucky as well. I'm interested to see what they do in the future. I'm expecting that he's going to just be not the sidekick to Cap in the future, but you know that he's just going to work hand in hand with Sam. That's what I would hope for, at least. I don't know. They make a good team, so that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, they are co-workers or a couple of guys, a mutual friend. The friend's gone, so they're just a couple of guys, you know, whatever they're going to say. But my original idea when we talked about this upon premiere was I wanted both Sam and Bucky to share the shield. Now, I know that it's been done multiple times. Steve gave it to Sam. Even when they took it from Walker, Bucky gets it, drops it next to Sam. Like, I can't take it because Steve gave it to you. But what I'd like to see is Sam saying, you know, all right, well, you're also worthy. Like Bucky's been seeing himself through Steve's eyes, through other people's eyes. He hasn't been able to like define himself for so long because of the brain control and everything. So I completely agree. The show is called Falcon and the Winter Soldier. They definitely put more emphasis on Falcon than Bucky. But in the future, I'd like to see more of that development for him and feeling like he is also worthy of using the shield as a public figure, because he thinks because of all of his sins from the past that he doesn't deserve it. So maybe that's what they're saving for later. Maybe that's in future seasons or a different movie.
I would love it.
He has not had as much, but I'm hoping that, you know, Sebastian Stan, I agree, destroyed it in this series, and that, you know, as long as he continues to play the character, there's more to be told for him, is my hope.
Yeah, I liked the Bucky's arc in this series. I felt they told it really well. He had his struggles at the start with not being the Winter Soldier, and I did like the way that, you know, the romance with him and Sam developed throughout the series, because at the start, you know, it was episode 1, and they didn't really get on, they didn't like one another, and then as the series developed, they became very close friends. He even turned up and helped Sam and his sister Sarah fix the boat, and I just liked the little banter between the characters. They made me laugh, and the little sarcasm, and I do feel that they did brush over that final act where Sam went and admitted that he killed the Asian man's son. I didn't notice it when I was watching the episode, but I definitely agree that they definitely swept over that, because it was such a momentous what's the word?
Momentous, yeah.
Yeah, momentous moment for Bucky's character, because that his name was on the top of his list, and he also was going out and having breakfast or lunch with the Asian character. I can't remember his name, sorry. And then at the end, you know, he went and admitted it, and it was a big thing, but they didn't touch upon it and make a big thing out of it, so that was disappointing. But yeah, I also agree with Jared. I think that Bucky didn't feel worthy enough to hold the shield because of all the crimes that he did in the past. So I'm really hopeful in if they do a series 2, which I think they will because it's so brilliant, that he then becomes or knows in himself that he is worthy of that shield, because he was Steve's best friend, and yeah, you know, and so then obviously when he was the Winter Soldier, then Sam became his best friend as time went along. So I like the way that his character is growing and is changing. One thing though I was really worried about was if he was going to turn back to being the bad guy.
Yeah,
I was like, "God, please don't do this."
Don't do that.
And I also love the fact that I just remembered now when Bucky was flirting with Sarah, and Sam did not like that. So I really like.
I thought that was really funny. I thought that was really funny. Yeah. So I don't know. So Bucky's character, I think really it's kind of interesting and funny, because you think about it in terms of like how interesting he is. It's like, so he starts off as Steve Rogers, Captain America's sidekick, kind of boring character, right?
For sure.
He dies. Sure. He's resurrected as a Winter Soldier, and he's like, to me, the most interesting thing he's ever been. Like in the movie Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Yeah. He's so cool.
Right, like so Bucky cool in that movie, like just the hand-to-hand scenes, just everything about his character just like oozes cool and like just dangerous. Just love him. So he's like up here. Okay. Now that he's reconciled being Winter Soldier and he's like, you know, figured it out, now he's basically Sam Wilson's sidekick, and he's kind of like come back down to here. So it's like, I hope they figure out a way to inject some intrigue back into that character again, because he kind of feels now is, you know, there's nothing wrong being a sidekick. You know, Robin's a sidekick. I like Robin, but just obviously the Batman. But, you know, I just feel like his character is kind of doesn't really have a lot of direction right now. So I hope they just figure out some way to tell a new story with him that stands out the way he really stood out as the Winter Soldier. You know what I mean? So we'll see if that happens. And you know, really, I think I would like to see, and I know Danielle, you're not going to like this, but I want to see them make Bucky dangerous again, so we can get that trending.
Oh no! I like the nice Bucky.
Dangerous again. Cool. All right. Well, yeah. Well, thank you guys for hanging out. Really appreciate you guys' insights and your thoughts on the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Make sure you follow Jordan on YouTube, Jordan Case. Jordan Case also same thing on Instagram. I believe. Make sure you follow Danielle on Instagram and YouTube. She's the girl in a movie in both places, correct?
Yes.
Cool. Follow her, and then of course follow me if you're not already on Instagram. Real Quick Critic. We're also on YouTube, of course. Just search The Quick Critic, and on Facebook. The Quick Critic. And yeah, thank you guys for hanging out. And yeah, we'll see you for the next one. Peace.
All right, till next time.
Thank you.